Welcome to my humble tavern. Today I will tell you about the Darkin, fallen warriors whose glory once echoed throughout Runeterra. You will learn about their rise and tragic fall, about those who try to hide them, and those who awakened them once again. I will tell you about the bloody civil war and everything directly related to the Darkin Saga, which literally led to the destruction of all of Runeterra. Do make yourselves comfortable, for we are about to begin. When the Shuriman Emperor came to power, his people began to use the Sun Disk, an ancient artifact that allows its bearer to draw power from the magic of the heavens. With its help, the Shurimans endowed selected warriors with divine power, transforming them into the Ascended, or as they were later called, the Golden God Warriors. These beings swore to protect their emperor and Shurima. However, disaster soon struck, as the Ascended army crushed the resistance of Ikathia, an independent region that refused to submit to Shurima. The mages of Ikathia, on the brink of defeat, desperately resorted to a forbidden power. They accidentally awakened an ancient and terrifying fear, the Void, which in an instant engulfed their homeland in eternal darkness and oblivion. The Shuriman army led by the Ascended managed to stop the onslaught of the otherworldly threats, but this victory came at a price. The minds of the Ascended themselves began to slowly crumble under the weight of their experiences. Shortly thereafter, Xerath betrayed Emperor Azir, leading to the latter's death and the fall of the entire Shuriman Empire. Those who remained alive continued to exist, trying to maintain a fragile alliance. However, without a central authority, they soon succumbed to their personal ambitions once again. Many of them were not satisfied with their former greatness. They began to proclaim themselves new gods, demanding worship and submission from mortals. Thus, the Darkin appeared, a name that means fallen in the ancient Shuriman language. The Darkin mastered many forbidden types of magic. They began to use blood magic to transform their bodies and weapons, becoming less and less like the heroic warriors of the past. But even they could not escape the curse, a painful madness that inevitably overtakes all those who have encountered the Void. Their alliance, already fragile, eventually fell apart. Then a new and terrible era began. The Great Darkin War, which plunged the entire world of Runeterra into chaos and suffering. During the Great Darkin War, Aatrox held a place of honor among his brothers, serving as a general who sought to reunite the scattered forces of the Fallen. He led several other Darkin and was among the 5 most powerful of them. These 5 fought side by side, pursuing a common goal, the destruction of the entire world. We know the names of 4 of them: Aatrox himself, Rhaast, Varus, and Naafiri. The identity of the 5th remained a mystery for a long time, but there is reason to believe that it is Zahin, the Darkin Glaive, who has already appeared in the comic about Yunara. However, in the comic, we have already seen that Zahin behaves quite differently from other Darkin. He is much more humane and kind, so it is unlikely that we will see him take over the body of the future host. Her full debut in League of Legends is expected later this year, and it will be quite interesting to see what role he will play in expanding the lore of the Darkin War and how his story will affect future events in Runeterra. But for now, let's get back to what we already know. During the war, Aatrox developed a fierce rivalry with Xolaani, a Darkin who wielded sophisticated blood magic. She used her power to subjugate other Darkin and turn them against their will, hoping to end the war. Aatrox was impressed by her methods, calling them cowardly, and since then has hated Xolaani with a frightening passion. It seemed that nothing could stop the Fallen. However, the gods intervened. The Targonian god of war gathered an army of followers to oppose the Darkin. Some of the Fallen were destroyed with the help of a legendary weapon called the Shalikar, but this was not enough against the strongest of them. Then a Twilight aspect called Misha, Zoe's predecessor, resorted to ancient primal magic. She shared this knowledge with mortals, and together they managed not to destroy the Darkin but to imprison them in their own weapons. These artifacts were hidden in caches throughout Runeterra. Centuries passed, and now one by one the Darkin are beginning to awaken. Somewhere in the shadows of the world, Aatrox was the first one to break free. He enslaved those who dared to touch the sword in which his essence was imprisoned. Using blood magic, Aatrox recreated his former body from the flesh of his victims. Now he roams Runeterra once again, consumed by a thirst for destruction and revenge that threatens to erase reality itself. The awakening of the second Darkin was made possible by the devastating war between Noxus and Ionia. In one of the Ionian temples, in a desperate attempt to save the life of his beloved Kai, the young warrior Valmar makes a rash deal with an ancient spirit, the Darkin. The creature keeps its promise. Kai does not die, but the body and soul become the price for the salvation. Valmar, trying to bring Kai back, is defeated and also becomes part of the Darkin's new form. Thus the three, Valmar, Kai, and the ancient monster, merge into one being known as Varus. Filled with rage and thirst for revenge, Varus brings death wherever he goes. The next Great Darkin to awaken in Ionia was Rhaast. His scythe is accidentally found by a young warrior of the Order of Shadow, Shida Kane, a talented adept of shadow magic who dreams of one day leading the Order. From that moment on, a relentless internal struggle begins between him and the Darkin. Rhaast seeks to consume Kane's mind, subjugate his will, and finally take over his body. Meanwhile, Master Yi is concerned about an ancient weapon, curved swords known as the Darkin blood letters. Ever since the artifact was found, some of his students have shown an excessive interest in it. In response, Yi tightened security and hid the swords deep within the Wuju temple, but the weapons whispered. They called out, and Kane heard them. Armed with Rhaast's scythe and gathering his loyal cultists, he headed for the Wuju temple. A bloody battle ensued. The forces of Wuju were no match for him. When all was almost lost, Master Yi's young apprentice, named Jun, was seriously wounded and in despair when she heard a voice in her head. "You will never die," it said, soft as summer rain, "because I will never let you." Surveying the fields strewn with the bodies of the fallen, Jun felt pain, guilt, and anger. She had failed her teacher, failed everyone. She had only one option left, to give in to temptation. As soon as she touched the weapon, her humanity vanished. She became the vessel of the awakened Darkin, Xolaani. Taking her true form, Xolaani, who possessed the gift of blood magic, easily defeated the remnants of Wuju's students. Master Yi retreated. Rhaast and Kane also decided not to engage her in battle. The power that allowed Xolaani to subjugate others, even her own kin, was too dangerous. Here's a fun fact. Xolaani was first mentioned in the story The Faceless God. We see her depicted as a huge statue built into a mountain. In the cinematic The Call, Talia destroys this very statue to block the Void Rift. Both in the artwork and the video, the statue's face is destroyed. This was done by Aatrox. As I mentioned earlier, he hated Xolaani for her desire to end the war and considered her methods treasonous.
"For too long have I butchered your statues!"
Now both Aatrox and Xolaani have awakened once again, and their ancient conflict is ready to erupt with renewed force. Meanwhile, at Aatrox's call, ominous signs begin to appear in various corners of Runeterra. The Darkin are returning. Like all the fallen, Varus retains some connection to the other Darkin. Hearing Aatrox's call, he decides to travel to Ikathia. However, before joining his general, Varus begins his own journey across Runeterra, gathering followers who can help him in the coming battle. Person, plant, animal. The Darkin's corruptive influence spares no one and nothing. This quote emphasizes that the corruption of the Darkin is inextricably linked to the Void, which is essentially what gave rise to them. Varus's virus-like nature is evident in how he conquers everything around him. Even a harmless flower becomes a carrier of a contagion capable of spreading and engulfing entire lands. Varus's next stop was the Freljord. Here he meets one of the archers of the Everosen tribe and makes a deal with him, granting him unlimited power. As a result, the archer's base and greedy qualities come to the fore, clouding his vision. Now he's a cultist of the Frozen Valley. The Winter's Claw was right. The Everosens had been too soft. It was time for a new leader, one that would not seek to unify the Freljord through peace, but rule over it. In various corners of Runeterra, in Bilgewater, Piltover, even on Targon, Varus continues to expand his circle of allies. He recruits a diverse group of individuals, each driven by their own motives. It didn't matter where the power came from. Her goddess would not care. What mattered was the glory it would bring her through the monsters she slayed. I have always been willing to sacrifice in the name of science. No matter the personal risk, the limitless, inexhaustible power I gained through the exchange was more than reward. The last to join Varus's ranks is the Lunari cultist. She sought an end to the conflict between sun and moon, day and night. The bow offered power, though it came with a terrible cost, yet she pledged herself to it anyway, hoping that it would stop the war once and for all. From these words, it becomes clear that the power granted by the Darkin causes serious discomfort to its bearer, but they all agreed to this burden. Perhaps this wild, primitive magic can be compared to that of the Freljord, where true ice could literally destroy its bearer. Only those who were strong in spirit could overcome this pain. Or perhaps this refers to the pain that would eventually consume and drive its bearer mad, as happened to many exalted beings who experienced the corruption of the void. In this art, you can also see his followers' combat squad preparing for battle. It is then that Varus encounters Xolaani in the heart of the ruined city of Ikathia. Here, among the ruins of the fallen city, she and her followers fight against the other Darkin. And that's where Varus' story ends for now. We move on to the stories of the other Darkin and directly to the confrontation between Xolaani and Aatrox. When they awaken, the Darkin are able to take control of mortal bodies, turning them into vessels for their essence. This is how they take on a distorted but human-like form, as in Xolaani. However, it turns out that not only humans can become vessels. The Darkin are capable of inhabiting animals, fish, and even plants. And it is precisely this animal-like form that we see in the resurrected Darkin Naganeko of Zareta. If you look closely at the left side of the art, you can see a chicken coop, and it was one of the chickens that became the vessel for this fallen being. Ancient muscles flexed once more. The warrior heard her general's call and knew where she was needed, south, in the lands she once knew as Ikathia. Perhaps those who imprisoned the Darkin thought that burying the legendary warrior Harazi in a sphere of star metal would be enough to weaken her fiery temper. But when her general awoke, so did Harazi, who discovered that even the ancient defenders of Targon could succumb to the temptation of promises whispered from afar. Harazi was gifted a higher perspective in the burning celestial matter that imprisoned her. She glimpsed the secrets of the cosmos and of the infinite passage of time that preceded and followed her existence. She learned so much, and yet her hatred for the coward Xolaani remained. Somewhere deep in the dungeons, Aatrox heard his general's call, and he intends to answer. Legend says Aatrox was mere moments from destroying Xolaani when the Darkin were set upon by the Targarnians. As centuries passed, he sensed the land around him became corrupted, tainted with rot and perpetual stench of death. How he dreamt of steeping Xolaani in this same suffering once he'd claimed his freedom. Meanwhile, in the waters off the coast of Bilgewater, Varus, a Darkin imprisoned in a harpoon, awakens. His water was once thrown into the ocean, and only a century later did one of the sea creatures accidentally activate it, becoming a new vessel for the fallen. Varus, the champion of the dunes, lifted himself to the water, his blood coursed with that same familiar yearning from years before, to serve, to obey, to submit. The story of Balcox is another example of how the Targarnians unsuccessfully tried to hide the Darkin's weapons. Unlike the other fallen, Balcox was the first to be reborn, not from living flesh, but from the tree itself, the ancient bandle tree whose branches entwined the Darkin staff, becoming his new vessel. Balcox felt the branches of the tree wrap around the staff in which he lay dormant. He quickly broke free. His life burst out of the dark staff and flowed through the ancient branches and knots of the tree. There was no heart here that could be controlled. There was no blood that could be bent. Balcox could finally return to his general and atone for his past sins. From the background of the art, it becomes clear that he has already arrived in Ikathia, the site of the ancient battle between the Ascended and the Void. In the bridge between worlds, I have long sensed a shadow that pulses with silent rage. Though I know better than to delve into the darkness after it, the pulse has lately grown stronger, faster, and I fear the creatures of the spirit realm will soon begin searching for it. His general's call stirred him from slumber. As his senses came to him, Bra found himself looking through a weighted veil to a lush, unfamiliar land. Slowly, inexorably, he stepped through the divide and buried his feet in Runeterra's soil once more, for Aatrox, for victory, for peace, for death. The next Darkin, Pra, awoke somewhere in Ionia. His rebirth remains a mystery, but the past art shows that his weapon was a fan. Apparently someone picked him up after he awoke, and he became the vessel of an ancient monster. When the Targarnians were considering where to scatter the Darkin weapons, one of their kind suggested the lands that would become known as Zorn. They believed that hidden deep within the walls of caves and winding passages, it would be perfect, far from human reach. but not for the Shirians. Aatrox burst into the processing plant, furious and impatient. Her rage was known even before the tentacles of madness found their way into her mind. But now she would make them all pay. First here, in this country of technology, and then in the south, where she will fight side by side with her general once again. As we learn from this excerpt, the next Darkin has awakened in the heart of Zaun, Aatrox. What is very striking is the form of the Fallen. It is unlike anything we have seen before. Its form is pure fiery energy, somewhat reminiscent of Xerath. That is, it has no physical shell, which makes it a unique Fallen and at the same time slightly breaks the law. After all, Are the Darkin used humans, animals, and plants as vessels, but this is not the case here, and it remains a great mystery to us. The next Darkin is Joral, once an ascended tactician known as the Ages of Eternity. His body was almost invulnerable, but the war with the Void broke his mind. He was eventually imprisoned in a dark shield called the Darkin Aegis, which is now guarded in Demacia. This is confirmed by the background of the artwork, which shows walls built from petricite, a special Demacian material that suppresses magic. A mighty ascended tactician known as the Ages of Eternity, Joral seemed impervious to attack even for the immortal god warriors of Shurima. But the war against the Void raged on, and as resilient as Joral's body was, it was his mind that broke, and how it broke. According to the legend of the weapon, Joral was bound to a young boy who broke his mother's prohibition and touched the shield, unaware of the consequences. In the artwork of Joral, we also see Aatrox himself in the distance, along with another Darkin, Anaka. She was once sealed in the Darkin Spear, which lay deep beneath the ice of the Freljord. But one day, a scout from the Winter's Claw tribe accidentally awakened her wrath. With newfound vigor, the great warrior Anaka sped south through the Freljord and into Demacian lands. The outposts prepared as best as they could to repel her assault, but no mere mortal would stand between Anaka's fury and the coward who stoked it. Meanwhile, Xolaani stands atop the altar of blood, performing a bloody ritual, a mass sacrifice of her own followers. Using blood magic, she absorbs their life force, seeking to strengthen herself before the upcoming clash with the other Darkin. At this point, the plot begins to branch out. We don't have a clear ending, only possible scenarios for how events might unfold. Let us take a look at them, moving from the least likely to the most likely. The battle gains momentum. Finally, Xolaani finds enough strength and determination to face Aatrox one-on-one. Their battle shakes Runeterra itself. The earth cracks and dries up under the weight of their anger. Targon's army descends from the heavens, the children of the stars, desperately trying to stop the impending catastrophe. But it's too late. Aatrox reaches the peak of his power. He destroys Xolaani and absorbs all of the Darkin's power. After that, he easily destroys the Targon army and defeats Rhaast, who possesses the world runes. Runeterra is on the brink of total destruction. This is what Aatrox has been seeking for centuries.
Enough, Aatrox! Stop this madness! The Rune Mage! Come to watch his precious world die! You would destroy all this for your peace? It is the only path, and so I gladly walk it.
This is the first version of events in which he emerges victorious. It is worth noting that all the Darkin who appear in this saga unquestioningly follow Aatrox, all except Xolaani. She does not want to be a pawn in someone else's game and strives for her own power over the world. This brings us to the second alternative version of events. A battle breaks out between Xolaani and Aatrox, not for life, but for death. However, chaos suddenly intervenes, distracting Aatrox. Xolaani seizes the moment and begins to literally devour Anaka, the very Darkin who caused the terrible cataclysm in Freljord and Demacia. Xolaani watched on as Anaka fell to her knees, subjugated by the very enemy she sought so desperately to destroy. Slowly, the beat of her heart rang out in unison with the others. Another heart to control, another body to command. While Aatrox fights Kael, Mihira, the embodiment of justice and mother of Kael and Morgana, enters the arena. She engages in battle with the Bloody Weaver, but is defeated. Xolaani begins to absorb her divine essence. More. Even the great hero of legend Mihira could not withstand Xolaani's overwhelming strength. The earth seemed to shudder to that one beat now. Such was the hemomantic power growing within Xolaani. And here a reasonable question arises: how did a Darkin, albeit powerful, manage to defeat a creature standing at the origins of godlike power? Most likely this is due to the fact that when Mihira shared her gifts with her daughters, Gale and Morgana, she weakened significantly and no longer posed a significant threat to Xolaani, who had become greatly saturated with Are the Darkin. Meanwhile, Xolaani reached a peak. She became a divine Darkin entity, finding incredible new power and a terrifying form. Now few can stop her. Not Aatrox, not Rhaast with his world runes, not even Kale's divine aspect. All they can do is watch as this world is consumed. And finally, the third and most likely scenario. The Targaryen army is heading for Icathia, where a massive battle between the Darkin is already raging. Realizing the seriousness of the threat, Kale sends a winged messenger to search for Rhaast.
Kale was wise in sending you.
Rhaast crested the ridge accompanied by Kale's silent servant. He looked down on a land scarred by war and caught sight of the Darkin monstrosities warring below. For centuries he had watched on as humanity veered from one catastrophe to another. What if, he thought, his efforts were futile and Runeterra was doomed to die? Rhaast pulled himself back to the present. The mindscapes he'd visited had answered his questions and filled him with purpose. The flaws of Runeterra's people, great as they were, should not condemn them to oblivion. Having made his decision, Rhaast decides to intervene and try to save the world.
My messenger reached you then. I am glad.
Ah, Kale. Here to witness the end.
I am here to prevent it, Rhaast. As are you.
What happened next is shrouded in mystery. However, everything indicates that Rhaast, using the world runes, is doing something fateful. He probably does not destroy the Darkin. According to the lore, this is impossible, but seals them away again, as he had done before, at least for a while.